Thank you for joining us as we choose to challenge for International Women's Day. International Women's Day prompts all-important conversations and discussions about inequality, gender bias, and many other issues that women have historically faced and continue to face every single day. Our 9 panelists today have all risen to the challenge of choosing to call out inequalities and choosing to speak about gender bias in their homes, in their communities, and in their workplaces. Today's event comes as a collaborative effort between Waterford Libraries, Europe Direct, and Waterford Integration Services, all who work together to give us the tools, the information, and the communication in order to rise to that challenge. Our very first panelist today will be no stranger to many of you. She is our youngest panelist, and she is street artist Caoilfhionn Hanton. Caoilfhionn,
hi.
Caoilfhionn, you're going to do something very exciting for us as we move through this morning's events. So I'm not going to say too much about it. I'm going to let you do the honors. We're going to leave a little bit of an element of surprise for our audience. But tell us a little bit about you, Caoilfhionn, and how your understanding of the challenges facing women today has fed into both your personal life and your work as a street artist.
Hi, Dymphna. Hi, everyone. First of all, I hope I'm articulate. So hopefully this answer is all right. But yeah, so I'm 22. I am a street artist, an artist, internet-y kind of person since I'm like 16. I did my first wall. Well, actually 15. And since then I've been doing works, but on the topic of like you said, the struggle that women of all, women on any sort of spectrum face, it's feeding into my practice and into my consciousness more as I grow older. So the work I did when I was 16 now, like I was only saying to Mom in the control room upstairs, as I was saying to Mom that I view a lot of the things as I've done, although it's great, I view it as practice because I do feel very strongly about like human rights in general, yourself, but I would like to inform my work with these elements rather than just painting a pretty face or a smiling kid or whatever. What the lovely people who are going to be talking about today will be the sort of things that I want to channel into my work to make a difference. And I don't mean that sarcastically, but yourself, just do good work. Yeah.
And your work is being given a very large platform in the difference that you are making, Caoilfhionn. So, you were featured on BBC on the Graham Norton show very recently. You're splashed all across Waterford for Waterford Walls and in many other areas. How does that feel to know that your voice is joining many other voices as an influential force in your town?
I won't lie, the narcissist in everyone probably, the initial buzz is like, oh my God, people actually like what I'm doing and the validation and everything. But as I said, my perspective kind of not narrows, it's obviously broadening, but as my focus is getting clearer of what I want to paint, now I'm confident, okay, well, I can paint a lot of different things, but what do I actually want to paint? And that's not frightening, but that is where the exciting reality kind of sets in, that people are seeing stuff. It's not just Waterford anymore. Like the internet, I could talk about the internet all day. I love the internet, to be honest. I don't know if everyone else does, but yeah, it feels good to be recognized and stuff. And the Graham Norton show, that was a good buzz. But I'm just excited for the future to build on that, and not just being recognized for being a pretty girl who paints or anything like that. What I want the artwork eventually to speak for itself, where I don't have to post selfies or anything. But sure, I love selfies as well. Like there's a duality in all of this, and I'm trying to navigate the nuances, as I'm sure everyone is. I hope that makes sense as well.
Definitely. And the work, you're going to do something very special for us today, Caoilfhionn. So as each of our panelists speaks, you're going to be very busy in the background creating something very beautiful. So do you want to give us a little bit of information about what it is you're going to be doing and what materials you're going to be using?
Yeah, let's just see. So I could give you a quick reveal, but it'll be like, woo! Yeah, really quick, nobody screenshot. Yeah, I was asked to kind of create something to obviously to do with International Women's Day and just women in general. So I just took, like, I think with COVID as well, I'm going to branch off here, but I think with COVID and the fact that we're locked in all day, I started like with my bedroom. Like I found an absolute adoration for Kate Bush and other females, and I've been talking to a lot more people since COVID began, like with isolation, like a lot more female friends. So I wanted to just put females on the page who I admire, whether it's for political, I was going to say ambition, but no, political efforts. There's people who are like celebrities who some of you might know, might not know. Yeah, just because, as I said, the duality of man, never mind that, it's the duality of woman. And then the fact that women, it's not just the same cisgender, I'm not going to say white woman, but you know what I mean? Like I wanted to include diversity and just a lot of progressive people who I admire. And if anyone wants to do a quick Google or anything afterwards, that's great, because like I don't know everything. I'm just inspired. I'm actually inspired by these women to do further research to, you know, broaden my horizon. So super. They're all gorgeous, amazing women.
Caoilfhionn, we're going to leave you do your thing. We're going to check back with you towards the end of this morning's event to see the finished result, and the very best of luck with that. So we're going to move on to our next panelist, who is a businesswoman and a global leader. So I know we have a series of slides here from Toluwani, so we're going to show those, and then we're going to have a conversation with Toluwani.
Hi there. Can you...
Hi, Toluwani.
Can you hear me?
Super. You're very welcome to this morning's event. So we're going to check in with you after we view your slides. So I'm going to let you play that, and we're going to have a discussion afterwards based on your work, based on your efforts within the African community and empowering leadership within workplaces. So we've lots to cover this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Not at all. You're most welcome.
Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes,
okay.
Sure can. So we're going to cut to that slide now.
Actually, well, I didn't have any slides today. I just decided,
great.
Yes.
Brilliant. So that gives us more time. Okay.
Yes.
So
I just thought we'll have a chat rather than make it that formal.
That's perfect.
Yes. So, well, yeah, go ahead, please.
So my first question for you, Toluwani, and you're very welcome to this morning's event. So we're celebrating women who have chosen to challenge in their individual workplaces and in their communities. So I know you're tremendously passionate about leadership within the workplace, offering people the tools to promote a positive workplace, and furthermore to promote entrepreneurship in not just Africans, but African women and women of African diversity and descent. So do you want to tell me a little bit about your work and how that came about?
Thank you very much. Let me first and foremost, happy International Women's Day and month to everyone, distinguished guests here, co-panelists, and ladies, and of course, every gentleman that is in the room with us today who is an ally, of course. First, let me say that it is really, the time we're in is actually a very important, strategic, and maybe I dare say a destiny-defining time for us as women. We have been speaking for so long, for generations, and it seems as if the world is actually listening to us now. So we find that the laws and policies and practices are changing, and paradigms are shifting, you know, to embrace who women are becoming. And the facts are there. Women are no longer content to be bystanders and onlookers. We have a new breed of women, and they've a reason, a new breed of without greed, I call them, because they're not looking for personal acclaim or personal gain, but they're not even waiting for accolades. They know that, you know, from challenge comes change, and they have chosen to challenge. You know, I am, as you rightly said, and really passionate, not just about women of African descent, but women in general. But I think women of African descent in this context, because research has actually shown that we face a distinct type of a set of barriers, and research actually called it the triple disadvantage notion, and that is, but we want to call it a triple advantage. It's that of being a woman, is that of being a migrant woman, and that of being a migrant woman from a developing nation. And so that has actually fueled my passion into saying, how can we turn this, what researchers call disadvantage, into advantage? And so that informs the bulk of my work. So I have been the last number of years been supporting particularly migrant women, you know, to be able to own their spaces and do what I call amplifying the voices, because sometimes we are speaking, but it's like it's not loud enough. So amplifying their voices, not just in terms of the volume, not just in terms of turning it up, but in terms of the quality of what we bring to the table, you know. And so it's about knowing our own story, owning our story, and being able to tell our story in a really dynamic way, in a really engaging and empowering way. And so that's been the bulk of my work. So I support migrant women particularly, and in terms of career development, in terms of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking, in terms of being able to prepare themselves for the Irish labor market. And I suppose that is also from the point of view that as a migrant woman, I also went through the spate of discrimination, being unable to access the job market in spite of the fact that I was qualified from my home country and the fact that I came ready to work. Mm-hmm. So that was all of that barrier. And I always say to myself, if I spend 20 years trying to get to where I am, the next woman that comes in should be able to spend half of that time if I'm in the room. Mm-hmm. You know, and so that is what pushes me. And I had it really blesses me when I finish a session, around the sessions we make, because I do work for various organizations who contract my services to say, you know, would you deliver this course for a team or deliver this workshop for women or something like that. But one of the things that really blesses me, I remember a woman that said, Toluwani, where were you 2 years ago when I needed you? You know, that broke my heart, but also blessed me the fact that, you know, it's not about how many accolades I receive, but the impact that is being made one woman at a time. And somebody said to me just a few days ago, you are a star, you're a phenomenal woman. It's not about the words, but the expression of what came from inside her to express how much, you know, what I brought to her is impacting us. But that's amplifying in terms of the quality.
And is the tide changing fast enough, Toluwani? So, I mean, as a migrant woman who is so passionate about inspiring others to enter their own journey and go on their own career path, is the tide changing fast enough for what we need?
Well, that's a brilliant question, Dymphna. I could be very politically correct and say yes, you know, but you know yourself that it does take work to bring change. And it does take a certain kind of people to embrace the change that needs to happen. And so I suppose that's one of the reasons why I started Hergenuity Africa, which is a membership organization that supports entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial thinking, and business leadership among women of African descent, because I realized that the change is not happening fast enough. Mm-hmm. You know, this is my 20th year here in Ireland. And while it's been a brilliant journey, I wouldn't trade it, have learned a lot, and I'm teaching women and those who encounter me in different ways how not to do it and how to do it based on my experience. It seems as if we have a bit of a way to go. We've come a long way, but we have a bit of a way to go. And it's going to continue to take our positive thinking, our tenacity, but also a push for co-creation of what we term as value. Because what has been in the past is that there has been a creation of and design of things that policymakers, designers of programs and all of that felt that was good for us as migrant women. But we want to come to the point where we are co-designers, co-creators of what we perceive as value. And I suppose that's one of the ways in which we haven't come along fast enough. So there is room to bring us to the table, but we're not even waiting to be invited anymore. We're coming to the table. And that is why we are stepping up our game. And that's the point of the amplifying, not just in terms of the volume, but also in terms of the quality. We're not waiting to be invited. We're actually building our own tables now, because we are destiny defining women, and that's who we are. We are a confident species of women. And sometimes along this journey, because of what you've been through, and it's happened to me, so I'm talking from experience, you do lose your mojo, you do lose your confidence, and it will take time to get it back, but you do get it back, especially when you network with the right people and you get in the right spaces. But no, it is not happening fast enough, and that is why we're seeing more women stepping up, and saying, no, it's not going to happen in my time. I'm doing something about it. And I suppose that's why the Choose to Challenge is really apt theme for this year.
And I think this year, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Toluwani, but I think this year with the pandemic, many women and equality has taken a back seat, because women are multitasking in a way that they haven't had to maybe ever or for a very long time, between homeschooling and working at home and juggling many, many things. And the expectation that society has for women has almost regressed. What do we need to do in the next year to change that trend?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that question again. Brilliant question. Thank you. I'm just carrying out a survey at the moment, and I'm looking into amongst other things, what women's thoughts are regarding this season. And it breaks my heart to find women, and not just migrant women in general, women in the workplace, working remotely. What are your thoughts? People are using words like conflicted, stressed, emotionally this, and they're using words like confused, and all of them. Those are the words that are coming at me in that survey. So it is a reality that women are not even thinking now about equality, about all the issues of gender bias and all of that. So going forward, one of the key things is really about self-care. I personally, because of the culture, I'm originally from Nigeria, and because of the culture that we have as people of African descent, mental health is an issue that we don't talk about. It's like a stigma, it's like when people talk about mental health, it's equivalent to you're going mad. So nobody wants to be identified with that, with those kind of labels. But increasingly, we become to realize that women need to really, really focus on their mental health. It is so important now. And that is coming from somebody who people will perceive as, she's powerful, she's this, she's that. I have gone through depression. I probably, in a way, I'm still in it in a way, but because I have developed a certain level of self-awareness, I know when I'm in it and I know what to do. But a lot of women don't. And so we need to create that opportunity for us to call it out, to call out the elephant in the room and say, this is the situation, and there's no need for any stigmatization or any shame. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel like you're dropping the ball. It's okay, and I am blessed because I have older children now, and so I get a lot of support. But when I did not, when I had to put one on my back and put one in the buggy and drag one along, I was on my own, and I had to navigate all of those challenges on my own. And maybe at that time, it was even better because there was no COVID. But now people are in that situation. And so it is important to self-care, to put that first. And it's okay if the house is a mess. You know, my husband will say, anybody who doesn't like us in this house with our mess, let him not come inside. And that's the bottom line. It's okay. Take care of yourself. Number two is that there must, because we're not allowed to go out and all of that, there must be more opportunities for those what somebody has called talk therapies, where we're just, you know, just being together in a virtual space, doing digital visiting and just checking in on somebody. You know, a woman said to me, Toluwani, you checked it on me. Because I was like, should I not? Maybe she think I'm in her face. But I said, look, I just do it. And she was so grateful. And another lady said to me, Toluwani, you called me early in the morning and you started praying over me. It was exactly what I needed. So it is those kind of things that we need to get into. So it's not about so much about achieving and all of that, but first self-care, because it's the person who is well that can go change the world. You know, self-care, and also, you know, those times together. Let's connect more. But thirdly, for me, it's about family. I need to spend a lot more time now engaging my children, and you know, know when they are. My children are so different as other children, and now I'm seeing how much more they're different. I have to engage with them in different ways, you know, to ensure that, you know, this time is so much more meaningful for our relationship.
Definitely. Toluwani, thank you so much for such wonderful insights, and you've done exactly what we're aiming to do here today, and that is to incite conversation in homes. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
Our next panelist is Jennifer Tejada, is a retired chief of police and incredibly proud of her connections in the Southeast. So we're going to move to Jennifer. Jennifer, are you with us?
I am here.
Super. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm incredibly aware that there is a marked time difference between where we are and where you are. So we are very appreciative of your joining us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. As I said, I'm not a morning person, and I'm definitely not a 3 a.m. person. So I ask for forgiveness ahead of time if I'm a little, you know, fuzzy.
Jennifer, you are a retired chief of police who has never quite managed to put her tools down. You're still incredibly active in so many ways. Tell me a little bit about the challenges involved in working and living in such a male-dominated environment.
Thank you. That's a good question. I only have 10 minutes and I can't give you a comprehensive answer in 10 minutes. But I think, you know, I've worked 26 years in a male-dominated profession, and it certainly was not a linear journey. There was a lot of zigzagging, there was a lot of learning. And I think the one common thread throughout all of it that helped me survive the challenges was that it was my authenticity, and I never compromised who I was, what my values were, what I was bringing to the table. So as a woman, you know, my style might have been very different from my male counterparts. My style was much more collaborative. My style, early in my career, when I responded to calls from people who were in distress, was to show them compassion, to give them space, to give them time. And those are things that I was downgraded on, right? So because I was being, evaluated by men, and being evaluated against their metrics of what success is and what a good police officer is. And I didn't even look like what a police officer should look like to them. So I didn't belong, but I never lost sight of my heart and being compassionate. And so even though I was unsuccessful in I won't say that. I ended up suing my first agency, my first police department, for sexual harassment and gender-based discrimination. And I remember when I told my parents, who were at home in New Ross, they were mortified that I was going to take on the big agency. But I knew I was doing the right thing, because it wasn't just about me. It was about the women around me and the women who were going to come after me. And, you know, granted, I had no, it wasn't about winning. It was never about winning. It was about sharing my story so that others would come forward. And our previous speaker spoke to that. And I think our stories are powerful. When we shine light on our dark, we are allowing other people to shine light on theirs and move forward. And so, you know, you got to know your edges. You got to find those edges, and you really shouldn't be afraid of that. And I had many opportunities to play that out in this career. I agree with our previous speaker that we are beyond saving a seat for our sister at the table. We're building that table, and we're sending out the invites and assigning seats. And that to me is, you know, I used to say, save a seat for a sister at the table. Like that was, you know, something that I would say. I realized that thoughts drive actions, right? Mm-hmm. And by saying that, I'm still assigning the power at the table to the men in the room. So I've stopped saying that, mm-hmm. because now we're building that damn table, and we are assigning the seats. It gives more energy to what we're trying to achieve. It gives more focus and more drive for me personally. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my success, and again, our previous speaker, and I cannot remember her name, but
Toluwani.
Yes, Toluwani. She spoke about awareness. And so I've done a lot of work in mindfulness resiliency, and I think resiliency is something that really it's a journey. It's something that we grow as we navigate through the challenges in life, right? And when you come out of the other side of challenges, it's like a broken bone. When it's fixed, it's stronger than it was before. So when we're aware of what's happening, and we're aware that the obstacle, whatever it is, it's the male power in the room, it's challenges at home, trying to manage home and work, whatever it is, the depression. I also suffered from depression and was very deep into it at one point, but the awareness of it is what helped me through it. The awareness of what's going on around us. So finding time, that quiet time where you know what's happening in your head, you can really be aware of what's happening and not be afraid of it. Mm-hmm. And think, why am I feeling this way? Don't fight the feelings. I'm, you know, whatever it is, but know who you are, know your thoughts, you know, drive your actions. We have about 8,000 thoughts a day. And our mind is very influential on what we do. So being aware of the thoughts and the stories in our heads. For example, I learned early on to not craft stories about people who I have not yet met. And in the workplace, for me, working with men, I was prone to fretting over, okay, what's he going to be like? What are his metrics for evaluating me? And I wanted to be successful, so I needed to know what his metrics were. And it was always this conversation of, you know, really working myself into a state where by the time I ended up working for that person, I might not have been the best version of myself. Mm-hmm. And the reason is, And I had a life coach one time, and she said, isn't it interesting that before you've met any of these people, you've already established a relationship with them in your head. And now when you meet them, you're going to play out that relationship, which was not a healthy one, right? So now I'm very cognizant of when I'm moving into a new space with new people who I might maybe feel intimidated by or challenged by, I don't allow that relationship to develop until I meet them, right? So,
and is that about protecting your space and your boundaries, Jennifer, or until you're in a comfortable place personally? I mean, do you think successful relationships are an integral part of anybody's ability to move forward?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Do you think successful relationships are an integral part of anybody's ability to move forward? And do you think being aware of those relationships is about protecting ourselves and our boundaries?
I think it is. I think we always have to know where our boundaries are. But relationships are so important to everything we do in life, whether it's at home or at work with friends. You know, relationships are what sustain us. We're stronger together. And really, you know, I have learned that my success is not my own doing or my own resources. It's my relationships, and it's knowing that together we can be much stronger, and using those relationships as leverage to achieve what I want to achieve. And sometimes that's men in the workplace, and in fact a lot of time it's men in the workplace for me. Having mentors is incredibly important, and not just, you know, friends who or people you're comfortable with, but I've always had mentors, always have had mentors. And, you know, sometimes it's a person who's like a coach who knows your good side and your bad side, and not necessarily somebody that you work with, right? So you have a coach mentor, and then there's the advisor, somebody who knows the industry that you're in, somebody who doesn't have to work in what your profession is, but knows it and can coach you, guide you on how to navigate through that, right? And so just the ability to craft relationships, to have those people in your circle who can help you be the best version of yourself. I mean, it's just hugely important to be the best version of ourselves, for sure.
And I had mentioned to Toluwani that the past year has challenged everybody in different ways, but I think particularly women. In very much a professional capacity, there is more expectation on women. And I think mental health is something that has been progressively declining, with very little self-care perhaps being observed, because maybe it's just not possible. What do you think needs to be done, or what do you think is possible to be done going forward on this, Jennifer?
You know, I think the more we speak about the importance of mental health, when we talk about life balance, it's often about exercise and nutrition, right? You see those two things when we talk about life balance. But the third component is mental health. And to really have, you know, brave conversations around that, and to acknowledge that we're all perfectly imperfect. Nobody's got it. Nobody has it so dialed in that their lives are just, you know, void of any obstacles. Everyone has them. We all have suffering at some time, some more than others. But our mental health is, you know, something that we don't talk about. I talk about it in my workshops, that my own journey was fraught with depression, suicidal at one point, while still being a police chief and managing a family and a marriage and all of the things that come. And to the outside world, I was doing fine. Inside, I was crumbling, absolutely, in a downward spiral, because I had not managed the stress of life. I had set it aside. I'm like, I'm supposed to be strong. I'm a police chief. I'm supposed to be able to do this, right? I think we've just got to bring the challenges of mental health out of the shadows, be authentic to who we are, and share our story. There's so much power in sharing our stories and shedding light on our darkness, so it lights up other people and inspires them to be the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. There's a beautiful comment that has come through, Jennifer, here from a member of the public. She said, or he said, wow, nearly crying here listening to Jennifer. Female work styles judged by male metrics is really resonating with me. Tough to have worked through that, and very inspiring. So Jennifer, thank you so very, very much for joining us at such an ungodly hour this morning. It is so appreciated, and thank you so much. So our next panelist will be known to many in Waterford, Osas Iyamu, and I apologize, Osas, if I've made a bags of your name. She is an intercultural health advocate and performer, and Osas is in fact going to perform for us here before we have a chance to have a conversation with her. We're just going to, are you going to perform live for us here, Osas, or are we going to play the slide?
Play the slide.
You're going to play the slide. Perfect. Okay. So I think Waterford Libraries are going to help us out in playing the slide.
Yeah. Just give me one. Just give me 1 minute.
My name is Osas Iyamu Usideme.
Sorry.
Welcome to International Women's Day. My name is Osas Iyamu Usideme, your intercultural health advocate, working with Waterford and South Tipperary Community Youth Services. We work with people in direct provision centers, refugees and asylum seekers. Thank you. Enjoy. Daisy Lisa has treated me thus. It has led me among the sharps of the forest. Returning is not possible, and going forward is a great difficulty. The affairs of this world are like the chameleon faces into which I have stepped. When I clean, it cannot go. I am on the world extreme corner. I am not sitting in the road with the eminence. Those who are lucky sit in the middle and forget. I am on the world extreme corner. I can only go beyond and forget. My people, I have been somewhere. If I turn here, the rain beats me. If I turn there, the sun burns me. The firewood of this world is for only those who can take heart. That's why not all can gather it. The world is not good for anybody, but you are so happy with your fate. Alas, the travelers are back, all covered in debt. Something has happened to me. The thing so great that I cannot weep. I have no sons to fire the gun when I die, no daughter to wail when I close my mouth. I have wandered in the wilderness, the great wilderness men call life. The rain has beaten me, and the sharp stone cut as keen as knife. I shall go beyond and rest. But I have no king and no brother. Death has made war upon our house. But the great household is no more. Only the broken faces stand. And those who dare not look in his face have come out as men. How well their pride is within. Let those gone before take note. They have treated their offspring badly. What is the wailing for? Somebody is dead. Agosu himself. Alas, a snake has bitten me. My right hand is broken, and the tree on which I lean is falling. Agosu, if you go, tell them. Tejada, Betu, and Cove that they have done us evil. Tell them that their house is falling. The trees in the fence have been eaten by termites. That the mantles caused them. Ask them why they idle there, why we suffer here and eat sand. The crows, the vultures hover always over our broken faces. And even strangers walk over our portion. Thank you. Welcome to International Women's Day. My name is Osas Iyamu Usideme.
Osas, that was an incredibly powerful performance and an incredibly powerful piece of work. Can I ask where the inspiration for such a powerful piece came from?
Actually, when we were growing up as kids, my elder sister was always blabbing about Desebeze. We didn't know what it was, but somehow I copied and pasted it well. It was only recently I realized that it was my elder brother's school project. Oh. Yeah, funny enough. So it's Songs of Sorrow. It's a Ghanaian poet that did that. So, yeah.
And you performed it so beautifully with such almost palpable emotions. You know, it was thick in the air, Osas. Your work is incredibly interesting and incredibly rewarding because your work with migrants and with refugees focuses on health, mental health, and many other areas. Yeah. Is it difficult, Osas, every day to see the same issues appearing?
Very well. I'll say it's really difficult because, first of all, I have a lived experience. I lived in Direct Provision Center for 2 years before I got my status. So I have a lived experience, and working with them, I kind of relate easily to that. Because as at when we were in Direct Provision Center, we didn't have this kind of measure in place to help us, like, you know. But at least now they have it, and unfortunately, most of them don't utilize it. And in Ireland, whatever is there, when it's gone, it's gone. So most cases, that is what I advocate for. If you have something at your doorstep, embrace it, utilize it to the best of your ability, and make do of it.
And can you tell me a little bit about your work and what it involves on a day-to-day basis, Osas?
Yes, so I work as a health advocate with the Waterford and South Tipperary Community Youth Services. We're based here in Waterford, but our remits cover the Southeast region. So South Tipperary is part of it. We have 2 centers in Waterford, 2 in Tramore, and 2 in County Westford, Rosslare and Courtown. So our remit really is health per se, but because of the COVID, we have kind of diversified into addressing the social determinants of health. So we have expanded a little bit. But before the COVID, normally we'll go into the centers, we have consultation with our service users. And that is how we help them to get the medical card, PPS number, especially those who are new in town, because the PPS number is the very first thing. Without the PPS number, we can't navigate any services. So that's the very first thing. As soon as we get that, We get them to get their social welfare payment, which is direct provision allowance, and we get medical card from there. And before you know it, they blend into the system through educational support and whatever that is there that is available to them.
And is it the challenges that are facing those in direct provision? I mean, they're wide, Osas, and we definitely won't have time to talk about all of them, but what would you like to see being addressed in the future? I mean, the near future or the longer term future, in terms of addressing those challenges faced by people in direct provision?
I would say giving them the space to to hear their voices, to voice their opinion. The fact is, most people in direct provision center are resilient, very, very resilient. But unfortunately, people don't acknowledge that. And I don't know if it's trying to protect them or I don't know, but like, there's nothing as bad as when you withhold information from somebody. You are killing their powerhouse. Because it's like you're facing something that is unknown, uncertain to you, and you don't have control over that. But like when you know something, you know what to expect. You work your way around it and you know how to manage it. We're not perfect. But when you know what you're dealing with, that gives you the strength to know how to manage it and move on with that. So that is how I see it. Giving people the chance to explore, to embrace whatever it is they have going on. That would be a good point to start with.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Osas, both for joining us and for your tireless efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dr. Lucy Michael. She is a sociologist from the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission, but she's also a woman who is incredibly vocal about addressing issues of inequality and bias within our individual communities. So, Dr. Lucy Michael, you are most welcome today.
Dymphna, really lovely to be here with you, and thank you to everybody in Waterford for having me along.
Thank you. Lucy, tell us a little bit about, we're going to begin, I suppose, with the idea, you were behind Fingal Communities Against Racism, which was groundbreaking, and I think it has set the bar for many communities to follow suit. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, you know, to all the women who are watching, I'm sure you know the feeling of wearing many hats and trying to tackle a problem from lots of different angles. And I think, you know, because women have been forced to work around barriers for so long, we get pretty good at trying to find the cracks and leverage them open. And that's really what Fingal Communities Against Racism was. I was somebody who'd been working in the area of equality and integration for a long time. Really since around 2002 in the UK and then in Ireland. I was originally from the UK, from Ireland, and I went to the UK to learn about integration and how we might do it better. Well, I had my eyes opened. And one of the things I had my eyes opened to was not just the kind of formal equality and rights awareness that the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission deals with, but also the need to really help people to, on the ground, understand the threat of hate groups. And so in the several towns and cities I lived in the UK, we saw hate groups really having quite an impact on the ground. So 2 years ago in our local election in Fingal, a far-right candidate put their name forward. And that really caused us a lot of distress. We knew the impact that would have on our friends, our family, our neighbours, our children's schools, to have those kinds of hateful ideas in circulation every day. And so while I was doing the professional work that like Toluwani and Osas do, I do quite similar work. That kind of collaboration is useful to a point, but when you want to take on hate groups, one, it can be dangerous work and you don't know where or when that danger can be. It's not always, but there is that risk there. It's work that certainly needs to be done in collaboration with minority and migrant women, but can't always put them to the forefront, again, because of that risk. We've seen, you know, good friends of mine have been really subject to a lot of abuse because they've been outspoken about racism. So there's no doubt that Black and ethnic minority women, traveller women, Roma women, get huge amounts of abuse when they go and speak about racism in public. And so Fingal Communities Against Racism was really an attempt to try and expose hate as it was seeping into our communities, organised hate that came in the form of a woman candidate. You know, and that really was challenging for us, because many of the activists involved in Fingal Communities Against Racism are women who fought for the right to bodily autonomy in terms of reproductive health care, who had been involved in marriage equality campaigns before that, who are really deeply embedded in women's groups in our community, as well as being involved as teachers and community workers and social workers and you know, and parents. And so for all of us, the idea that hate groups would use our womanhood against us to try and roll back those rights for us and for those that we stand with. You know, that was really terrifying to us. So we tried to use the experience we had from political campaigns over the last decade or so, and the large networks that we had between us in all our different ways that we work. And so FCAR has around 100 people centrally involved in it, but we are involved in towns right across Fingal, and that's the important thing. Each of us has our own network of people that we can talk to. Now, one really interesting thing that we did then was, well, the thing that I'm passionate about is, how do we do something? Can we make something better practice? Can we make it automatic? Can we embed it in our social life some way? And so FCAR was an attempt to try and produce tools that we could use to combat hate and build those really resilient communities.
And is it possible, and look, of course it's possible, but I can't imagine it's easy, Jennifer, for us to adopt and utilize those tools, not just within our communities, but I think within our homes, because these ideas quite often need to change within our four walls first before we bring them out into the wider communities. How can we begin those conversations?
Well, I suppose the first thing to acknowledge is that for many of us, talking about racism and exclusion is difficult. It is something that people can be afraid to talk about in case they get it wrong. Others are not so afraid to talk about it and are quite willing to be very prejudiced in their speech. But for many people, talking about it and tackling it is an area that they get nervous. So the first thing is to make sure that, you know, people are equipped with enough support and understanding to have those conversations. And, you know, I think the one thing is, you can't lower your standards when you're fighting racism. You have to have, you know, principles about the extent to which you will tolerate hateful or exclusionary ideas. So, but acknowledging that, you still have to find ways to bring people back to those values. And so when we talk to public figures, when we hold politicians to account, when we hold people who have a large platform to account, we usually talk about calling them out. So being very explicit about how they failed to meet our values, how they don't sit in line with who we think we are. But when it comes to family and friends and co-workers, it can be difficult to have those conversations without fracturing those relationships. And we need those relationships, because if we've got resilient relationships, we have a chance to pull them back in line with our values, to say how much we and others are hurt by the way that they think, act, and speak. And that's really key, is to use our hearts as well as our heads in this. So one of the things that we did in the general election campaign in Fingal was we produced a little leaflet, a very simple one, entitled Difficult Conversations. How to have difficult conversations about immigration, because immigration was the area that the far right candidate was focused on in Fingal. And with one simple leaflet that we gave out and sent around on the internet, people came back to us and said, you know, this is just what I need to talk to my son. This is what I need to talk to my sister. This is what I need to talk to my aunt. You know, my mum's been spouting all this stuff recently. I really need this leaflet. And we thought, okay, so one simple tool is a leaflet with 10 steps on it on how to have those conversations. And they are tips that are well known and well researched and really tested. You know, humanizing the story instead of fighting with facts, humanize the story. Who are migrants? Well, we are migrants. In Fingal, in fact, the name Fingal comes from the land of the foreigner, the land of the stranger, because Fingal for centuries has been an entry point to Ireland, and it has been a diverse community for many, many years. My grandparents from Fingal, they were part of a very diverse community. So just because our communities look a little bit different these days, well, look, our county is named after a blonde stranger. They looked different then too, when we're talking about Vikings arriving and so on. So this is not new. The idea of diversity is new. We are diverse. We've always been diverse. And even when people say, oh, well, we've got new Irish. Well, hang on a second. We were always diverse because we have traveller women living amongst us in our community. We've traveller children in our schools. There's diversity right there, but we don't acknowledge it. And I suppose one thing that's really challenging is we've taken many of those prejudices against travellers for granted for years. In fact, we saw the impact of anti-traveller speech on a presidential campaign a few years ago when one candidate was very explicitly anti-traveller. So we need to take the lessons of that and develop simple tools, simple language that people can use to try and, in their homes, in their families, in their schools, colleges, workplaces, have those conversations and draw people back in. This is about our human selves. This is about our strong neighborhoods. This is about being able to talk to one another. And it's about reinforcing those values of who we are. We are not a hateful people. We are not a divided people. We will not be a hateful and divided people. And those people who will bring hate to our communities, who will undermine our work, who will make us fail to see each other as human, they are the outsiders. They are the strangers. They are the ones who do not belong. And I suppose too, we were struck really in Fingal by how these hate groups are using networks that are international and coming to places like Fingal to darken the names of towns, to denigrate them, to make them places that you wouldn't go to. So you talk to people all over the country about the lovely town of Balbriggan on the beach. And, they may well say to you, oh, I heard about that. That sounds like a very dangerous place. And in fact, that's not true at all. That is what they do in hate groups to make places sound like a problem, to sound like a danger to be avoided. And of course, the idea is that then people as far as Waterford would hear about the problems with a particular town and they say, oh, we mustn't become like that. So really for us in FCAR, it's about doing the same thing that I do in many of my other work, both with the Human Rights and Equality Commission and in my work in Equality and Diversity, which is to find people to collaborate with, find a language that we can use and share with others, and find mechanisms that we know we can always turn back to when things get tough, that we have tools that we can use and we can share. And so that just gives you an idea, the difficult conversations trainings that our group have developed, a couple of amazing women in our group have developed, are one way of tackling that hate.
Wonderful. Lucy, thank you so much. You've definitely given us more than food for thought. You have sparked some all-important discussions. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're going to move on to Sasha Terfous, who's a spoken word artist. I'm going to let her work speak for itself initially before we move on to have a chat with Sasha.
This next poem is called Age. Auntie stretches curls across her palm and examines them like creases of skin. I can see her broken, not taken care of. With each wince and tug, she divides my family tree, reading my scalp like tea leaves. She massages magic into my shattered ends and fixes them flat to my head. You are lost, she chuckles. She handles each braid a newborn babe. Each strand of hair is proof of a higher power, an omnipotent God. In some lands, Auntie is known for her voodoo, the breadth of her hips luring any man to his knees, at the trick of her tongue detects even the whitest of lies, drawing them out like tarot cards. Auntie is known for her ability to read you and reap you all in one look. It has been passed down to her from her mother, and her mother's mother taught her the craft. Also taints her veins, incantation stewing with each kiss of her teeth and smack of her lips. But today she is no witch, nor does she bend to Olaroon today when she speaks her pidgin cracks with exhaustion. She is not brewing love potions or blessing newborns. Today she is weaving her stories through my ancestry. She speaks of how she watched the fall of Kemet, how she has seen men grovel for their lives and women submit to their own demise. Today Auntie was served bowls of Igusi soup to men that do not belong to her and their company. Babe on back she cancels my dry and damaged. Taming my on edge and my heightened, she's a soothsayer. Soothing lies and false pretense, she cradles my ego and lulls it to sleep. Auntie is known for her power, for her wisdom and her worrisome, her gifted hands that heal the tired and her bellied laugh that fills entire churches. Auntie works the night shift at the hospital, distributing small blue pills and small white cups. She deals sprays of deodorant and colour-flavoured lollipops to young drunk women in nightclub bathrooms and sews strands of stress together to frame delicate egos. Today, Auntie is doing what she knows best. She is creating something out of nothing. This next poem is...
That was incredibly powerful, Sasha. Sasha, what I'm hearing there is very much leaning towards what Jennifer had spoken about with successful relationships. Can you tell me a little bit about Auntie and this deep, layered, successful relationship that we're hearing about from that spoken word piece?
I suppose the first place to start is Auntie is generally a term of respect. It's a very powerful word. We also have uncle as well, but Auntie specifically is usually a term of respect that you use to address an older woman in your family, a woman who may have children or a career, a woman who has experienced life. And I think that's the core of it. It's a woman who has experienced life and she has been educated by life. So when I say Auntie could be a woman only 5 to 10 years older than me, or Auntie could be a woman 30 to 40 years older than me, or it could be my mother's sister. But it's a term of respect. I think as well, especially with the younger generations, specifically in African culture, of course, you have Auntie in Asian culture as well, and a lot of Hispanic cultures too. I think as well, it kind of tends to be this ongoing joke, especially amongst the younger generations, where we use the term Auntie. So it's like, oh, someone come collect your Auntie. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's yours, she's not mine. But yet, you cannot deny when you reach that age where it's when your friend's kid first calls you Auntie. It's almost like this pride, because it's like, wow, I've graduated into womanhood. I've graduated from a girl into someone who's considered to have experienced life. You know, it's a really powerful thing. And I know a lot of the time we make jokes about it, but there is a certain pride, you know, it's a very strong cultural pride underneath that term.
It was a beautiful piece, Sasha. It was very, very strong, and it spoke volumes about the importance of the threads of history that we have. You know, we're learning lessons from those who have gone before us, and we're setting the bar for those who are yet to come. Do you think there are challenges that we are rising to in navigating those connective threads?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, even the whole idea of it is to take the knowledge that is being imparted onto us by the women around us who are older or younger, but it's also to acknowledge that they didn't do it 100% right, because nobody has done it 100% right, and nobody is going to be the most effective in addressing different societal issues. But it's about taking that knowledge and using it in a way that still helps inform and educate and helps you make informed and educated choices. The relationship, I mean, between women is such a fickle one. I think it's such a sensitive relationship. It's a different kind of relationship because there's a lot that comes with it. You know, there's obviously empowerment and there's comfort. There's laughter. We cry together. But women are also bred to be these very competitive creatures. womanhood is a process, and it's a process that we're all experiencing, but a lot of the time we're pinned against each other because we're taught there's only one space. Mm-hmm. And now 10 of you are competing for that one space. And that could be the space of being the matriarch of the family, right? Mm-hmm. Or it could be one opportunity within a career position or in a social setting. So I think it's womanhood is a process. I think, and as I'm getting older and as I'm kind of growing into my womanhood as well, you know, and as I'm transitioning into my life, I'm realizing that I'm never going to have it completely together. But the most important thing are the women around me who can guide me, who can counsel me, who can impart knowledge upon me when I feel lost, when I feel estranged from this body that I'm in, when I'm told that I don't belong to this body and that this body is not mine. It's important that I have those women around me who say, you know what, I also experienced that, but it's important for you to remember you are who you are, mm-hmm. and nobody can take that from you.
And does cultural diversity feed into that, Sasha? So, you know, are there different lessons to be taken from the idea of cultural diversity where embracing womanhood and embracing one another is concerned?
100%. I think womanhood and cultural diversity is a very interesting relationship. I mean, for years we've known about what the ideal woman looks like. You know, we talk about the hair, the long hair, we talk about the stick thin body, we talk about, you know, a nice golden tan, but we don't talk about what's underneath that. Because when we talk about the ideal woman, all of us focus on the weight. We all focus on the color of hair. Anybody can change their hair color, but not everyone can change their skin color without causing severe damage. So even that ideal woman that we picture on the magazines, you know, it's a very niche box. So it does trickle down into, you know, different diverse cultures and diverse ethnicities, because we literally have, and you know, there are some women out there who do fit that box, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. But it's about embracing the diversity of women as a whole, mm-hmm. because the reality is not every white woman looks the same, and not every Black woman looks the same. Mm-hmm. You know, so how can we expect them to compete with each other for this title of successful, for this title of beautiful, to be attractive? And it's mad because I was actually thinking about this the other day as well. And I was like, my entire life, my goal has been to be attractive. Because whether it's, well, what color do I dye my hair? What haircut will I get? Oh, well, I have to use these special products to clear my skin because I don't like my acne. I used to have cystic acne when I was younger. Or I have to watch what I'm eating. Not for my health. No, not for my health, but because my jeans are too tight now, you know? Or I used to wear, you know, size 3 shoes. I'm a size 4. I have a small foot. Mm-hmm. But, you know, God, I'm a size 4, like I could be a size 3. It's uncomfortable. I couldn't walk. Mm-hmm. But like, we put these pressures on ourselves to fit these very niche boxes. And the reality is 99% of the women don't fit those boxes. So like with cultural diversity and womanhood, it is a very strained relationship, because it's not just in the Western world. It's expanded outside of that. When you go to Africa, when you go to the Caribbean, when you go to Asia, when you go, you know, to South America, what's the number one thing that's in every beauty salon? Every beauty salon. Do you know?
No.
Whitening cream. Because I'm told, and Osas is told, that her level of beauty is not beautiful enough because it's not that niche box. Mm-hmm. So it's not taking away from the struggles, but it's also about being aware of the different struggles of women in different diverse cultures, because we're all competing to fit this box. You may go on a diet, I'm expected to bleach my skin.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm that size 0, I'm still expected to bleach my skin, you know? And then that's not even touching on the topic of hair,
mm-hmm.
you know, and how much weight that has within the community as well.
Sasha, I appreciate your honesty. I think I completely agree with everything you've said, and I think there's a lot of work still to be done, but I think we're beginning to make headway. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you for such a beautiful performance. Our next panelist is no stranger at all to Waterford. It is, now I can say it, it's #1 Irish best-selling author, Megan Nolan. Megan, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, good morning.
How are you, Megan?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Megan, we're tight on time in that we have 10 minutes, and it's difficult to bring everything you want to say into 10 minutes. But what struck me with you reading your book, Acts of Desperation, and for anybody who may not have gotten to read it yet, we have a female unnamed narrator. It's from her perspective, and she offers us, I'll say, an unconventional view of relationships, but it's not. It's just what people don't talk about. Why did you decide to take that direction with your work, Megan? And do you think these conversations need to happen much more vocally?
Yeah, it was something I thought about recently when I was chatting with my best friend Jiren. She's from Waterford as well, and we were reminiscing about this conversation we had after she had a breakup about 10 years ago, where we were just both saying the pain of romantic relationships sometimes is so great, and breakups and the trauma that comes with them, that it's sort of amazing that they're treated, like culturally we know that they're painful. But even the fact that you couldn't call in sick to work and say, oh, sorry, my boyfriend dumped me, I can't come in today. But the sort of extremity of the pain that happens from romance sometimes doesn't get treated that seriously, because it's, especially from women, it's seen as a bit of a frivolous topic. But actually, the relationships, again, are the core part of most people's lives. So when one of them is toxic or falls apart, then it is, life-changing and devastating. And I don't think that we always take that very seriously.
Mm-hmm. What you offered us was a relationship where, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, we see a woman hand over almost all of the power within herself to somebody else for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Do you think that this is a serious challenge to us, Megan, in society, that we do actually maybe unconsciously give that power to others, namely men within the community?
Yeah, I think that we're really raised to center our lives around who we're going to partner up with in the end, and to focus on that as the point of life and what we should prioritize in our lives quite a lot of the time. So I think that I don't think it's such a risk if you're looking for a partner and you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, because you've necessarily had some time to put together a life already. But I definitely think in your earlier years, when you haven't established an identity for yourself fully, then you're really at risk of handing over, the keys to your identity and your power, as you say, to someone who agrees to take them on for you, and who'll take that sort of burden of responsibility for who you are away from you.
Do you see that process changing? Because it's a narrative that I think most of us can identify with, and it's something that it begins very early on. It begins when we're maybe quite young teenagers, thinking about dating, thinking about relationships, and by then it's almost too late to educate ourselves on the right decisions to make, because this is how we've been shaped. What would you like to see being done to counteract that, Megan?
Yeah, it's really hard to say one directive that could change that atmosphere, obviously, because it's such a pervasive and atmospheric system that you barely notice while it's happening. But I definitely think that in childhood, and before you even have any relationships of your own, I kind of feel, looking back on it, that boys and teenage boys had lives of their own, and that didn't revolve around the idea of who you liked and romance, even though those things were part of their lives too. And it felt so inordinate, the amount of attention that we paid to it as little girls, even before we really had any real crushes or love interests. It was somehow in the culture already that was what you should think about, and that was what your interests should be revolving around. And I don't know how that gets communicated so successfully so early, but obviously it has to do with, it's not that long ago that it would be explicitly said that the point of your life is to get married. So it's obviously a hangover from when it was a formal instruction in society that was the point of your life. So I don't know how we work to, I guess it has to be more proactive, that it's not just not saying the point of your life is to get married, it's also actively saying, here are some things you might want to focus your life around, rather than that when we are young girls.
And for you, Megan, from a young age, looking at acting on stage with Little Red Kettle, Waterford Youth Arts, it's always been a choice to be switched on, to be communicative, to pass on a message to those listening. Was that the appeal of writing? Or going forward, are you maybe on some level using your writing as a way to incite that change or start these conversations?
Yeah, I think definitely, writing before I was ever doing it as a job, it often was trying to explain things to myself that aren't, unless you take the time and attention to sort of dissect what's happening in your life, things can happen and disappear because of, how busy we all are, without really processing them or understanding them. So writing was originally sort of a way for me to elaborate on my experiences to myself, to try and explain my experiences to myself. And then, if you have an aptitude for it and you can make something artful out of doing that, then it does become something that potentially might help other people. I mean, I don't want to be so, it's not like you're writing a self-help book, so it's not going to be direct advice to people. But I think even seeing something elucidated that you've experienced, or even that you've thought about, that you haven't seen elucidated before, can be comforting, even if it doesn't really help you to change as a person, but it's just a comfort to know that you're not alone in it, definitely.
Super. Megan, thank you so much. Your book is released now, am I right, in America?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
yeah, yesterday.
I wish you all success with that.
Thank you.
I think there's lots of important conversations happening on a local level, obviously overseas and now in America, thanks to you. And that's no small feat, Megan. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Minnie Marley is our next performer. Now, Minnie is a singer-songwriter. Minnie cannot be with us today, but we are actually, correct me if I'm wrong, she may be here. We're going to play a piece from Minnie, and we may have an opportunity then for conversation afterwards.
DJ go out on that thing. Nothing no one, need something new. Way out of pond, come work on it. If me get vexed, me go leave make sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. No. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. No. Tell you if you move quick on it. Another is waiting for your next in line. The bedroom, them one next in line. You giving them chance for your next in line. Now vex me twice, I got next in line. Nothing what you say makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. No. go hard. Need you to go hard on that thing. Nothing no one needs something new. We had a phone call, work on it. Me get fixed, me no need sense. Now when you see reasons, now when you see reasons, no. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed. Thinking of it, leaving me vexed, no. Nothing when you say it makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. No. Nothing when you say it makes sense. Nothing what you say makes sense. No. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. Thinking of it leaving me vexed. No.
And that was singer-songwriter Minnie Marley. Now, we will be finishing off with another piece by Minnie, and we will be returning to a piece by Sasha to play out the event. But before we do all of that, we're going to check back in with street artist Caoilfhionn Hanton to see how she's getting along in the background. Caoilfhionn, how are we getting on?
Hang on now, I just fixed my angle now. Sorry, I'm not at my best. Yeah, I'm good. Slowly but surely, I'm going to keep working on this and then post it on Instagram when I'm done, and I'll tag you all. But slowly but surely, there's a few faces you may recognize, and then there's others that don't at all look like what they're supposed to. But yeah. Do you want me to talk? Do you want me to quickly say any names? Or
Absolutely.
anything?
Just give us maybe a brief overview of who we might see in there and what we can expect with the finished results, Caoilfhionn.
Okay, actually I just want to say as well, this has been amazing so far, and it's been really this has been better than any podcast I've ever listened to work to, so thanks guys. But yeah, so we have rappers, I have Lil Kim here, I have Lauryn Hill, and also there's kind of women in the same industry, but there's different sides of the coin. So we have some, like Lil Kim would be an example of someone who's basically sexually not rebellious, but who was a pioneer, who did it like the men did it at the time. We have Claudette Colvin. She was like Rosa Parks kind of before Rosa Parks did it, really, as in she was younger and it was a few months before. And I'm not an academic, so I can't say exactly anything concrete about any of these women. But apparently she didn't get the coverage because she was darker skinned as well. So there's things that I've only learned since actually drawing these women. We have Malala Yousafzai, we have Greta Thunberg, my friend Rui Potter, who was a very prevalent voice in the Waterford repeal kind of community, came out with her story, and my bestie. We have Meghan Markle, who the other day, gave it to us, which is great. Holly Kearns, the Social Democrat, not MP, but you know yourself, politician, but generally just a legend, and everything she stands for is amazing. Lucinda Graham is my friend from Belfast. Oh shit, sorry, not to curse. You can't even see who I'm talking about, you can only see me. Lucinda Graham is a Northern Irish activist and clothing designer and general legend. We have Constance Markovich, we have Lady Pink, who was the first ever female graffiti artist to make a stamp with her name. We have Ash Sarkar, who is with the Navarra Media, and she's an amazing political pundit, and she's hilarious. And if you've ever seen Piers Morgan being roasted, it's probably by her, and she's just unreal. We have Sean Fay, who's a trans woman, I would say activist, but like if you're living your life publicly, it is sort of activism, isn't it? Like if you're just being your authentic self. She's amazing on Twitter. We have Lady Di. We have my mum, who will be my mum eventually. Doesn't look like her right now. We have Marsha P. Johnson, who is credited with throwing the first brick at Stonewall, the riot. We have Kate Bush, doesn't look at all like her yet. We have Jacinda Ardern, Queen of New Zealand and anti-COVID. No, she's much more than that, but yeah, you know yourself, amazing. Frida Kahlo inspired me to grow out my unibrow for November. I got rid of it now, but I'll actually grow it back again. And I think then Lauryn Hill, and then yeah, I think that's it. So nothing yet, but it'll be nice.
That's astonishing. some extremely strong characters and very inspirational. And I love the fact that your mum, Sarah Jane, is in there as well, who many people will know from the Parlour Vintage Tea Room. So Caoilfhionn Hanton, street artist, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing that on Instagram later today. And we're going to wrap up the show with Anne Nolan, who is the programme lead for Waterford Integration Services. Anne is an integral part of everything that Waterford tries to do to have this connective tissue, and she's a strong example of the voice that Waterford needs. And I'm going to hand it over to you to close this event. I think you're the best equipped person to do this.
Okay, thanks a million for that, Dymphna. We hope everybody enjoyed our panelists this morning and our little cultural snippets in between. I would just say kind of just a tiny bit about myself in terms of like what has brought me to humanitarian work here in Waterford. And I suppose my whole life has been that journey through community development. All my work has been kind of with Indigenous ethnicities, marginalized youth, disadvantaged groups, women in the home, geographical disadvantage. So look, this is where we are today, and this piece kind of is not about me. So I'm going to try and wrap up very, very quickly by bringing back a couple of some of the very, I suppose, iconic statements that people have made today. And Caoilfhionn in particular, Caoilfhionn, fabulous piece of art. Never doubted you for a minute. I'd love to see that on a gable wall somewhere in Waterford, as a real humanitarian statement. So look forward to seeing the end product there. Toluwani, embracing diversity, embracing womanhood, embracing entrepreneurship, as she always does, 110%. Talking about the challenges, and I love the way that she flipped the coin. Instead of looking at being a woman and being a migrant woman, and being a migrant woman from a developing nation as a disadvantage, but flipping that, turning it on its head and looking at it as it being advantage and stepping stones. Also the importance of knowing and owning your story, and that seems to have been a thread the whole way through today. The importance of impact that we have kind of, and we can only impact starting with one woman at a time, starting with ourselves, bringing that out kind of to our families and then out into the communities, and it's that value of co-creation as well. Nobody is an island, nobody can do it on their own, Love the piece then from Jennifer. Jennifer would have been an old kind of friend of mine. We kind of go way back, way back, and really nice to be able to link in with somebody again who has done really so well for herself, so far away from home. It's great to be able to bring that back to the Southeast, and that we can all be front runners. We can all be kind of the star in our own story. I mean, Jennifer, really, her story is really something that we should be looking at on Netflix, because she really took on the establishment really at a time when nobody really had the courage to do that, and particularly as a woman, and a woman so far away from home and without that kind of support network behind her. So that has been, really a great eye-opener, and I think would be an inspiration to an awful lot of women listening in today. And navigating career paths, in male-dominated societies has never been easy. Osas, as always, her beautiful, colourful self. Osas, you look wonderful today in all your coral. You should have said why you wear coral. But thanks again for that. Always a wonderful conversationist, but also a wonderful performer as well. And we are about embracing diversity. We are about embracing culture. We never ask anybody to give up their culture. Come and join us and add to our culture, and that's how we look at it. So Osas, as usual, spot on. Dr. Lucy, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. I suppose really probably some of the things that you didn't say, like your importance, you are actually a human rights commissioner here in Ireland, and that has to be recognised. An awful lot of people do not realise that we have a human rights commission here in Ireland, and I think we need to be doing more and more of this work to get that information out. And Lucy, I look forward to linking in with you again in the future. I do think that yes, we do have an awful lot that we can share, that will benefit the community here in Waterford as well. So I look forward to linking back in with you following on from this. And thank you so much to Fidelma Joyce in the Irish Human Rights Commission as well, who organised Lucy to come along for us today. Sasha, what can I say? Fabulous, fabulous words, fabulous young lady, fabulous inspiration. I'm looking forward to watching more and more of your work. Absolutely fabulous, and a great role model for young women. Megan Nolan, where do we start here? It is a huge coup for us, and you know, it's so fabulous to see somebody doing so well. Delighted and best of luck with the launch of the book in the States yesterday. We'll be watching this space. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you have an extremely busy schedule, so thank you so much for that. Minnie Marley, what can I say? Mindele actually is based in Cork, but very much supports what we do here in Waterford, has been a guest of ours, a guest performer of ours on a number of occasions at our Africa Day events. Again, moving forward and really doing well for herself. She's actually working today. She works in care homes, frontline worker on COVID, as many of our ladies here are today. So kudos to all of those ladies, and stand up and take a bow for yourselves. Looking forward to hearing Minnie's second track later on. So that's all I'm going to say for now. A lot of people know who I am, and if not, give me a ring later on and I'll fill you in. Dymphna, thank you so much for your professional work today. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much to Central Libraries, the two Sineads, Sinead O'Higgins and Sinead Commons, for all their work in the background that nobody can see. I'd just like to say that Waterford Integration Services, we actually have two of our directors here today. Sarah Jane Hanton is a director, Osas is a director, who are participating and supporting. Sarah Jane is looking after some of the tech details in the background as well. And Sinead Commons actually is also on our board of management. So, you know, we are very active, and actions always speak louder than words. So we're very proactive as well. So thank you so much to everybody. I hope I haven't left anybody out. We look forward to next year, and we certainly look forward to growing ourselves for Africa Day in 2022. Watch this space. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Anne. What we're going to have, just closing out the event, we're going to have Like a Girl and Warrior Woman by Sasha, and we're going to have as our finale Glue by Minnie Marley. Thank you to everybody for attending, and a very happy International Women's Day.
Like a girl. Do you punch like a girl? Do your knuckles raise in front of a trembling voice, ready to start and always prepared to finish? Have you felt your fists clench in self-defense, pushing your fear deep into your gut? Do you run like a girl? Do you hunt ambition and chase dreams along Olympic tracks? Do you sprint on fractured feet and thank the gods you did more than walk? Have your ankles swollen from your own determination and begged for you to rest? Do you cry like a girl? Your spirit an ocean of love and sorrow? Do you mourn the parts of yourself you never knew and pray who you become? Will you be just as magnificent as their memory? Do you craft like a girl? Daggers and blades fashioned from household keys, bicycle locks gripped with intensity. Do you wear your creativity like a badge, pinned tightly next to your heart? Does it protect you from the shadows that haunt alleyways and from those hiding behind them? Do you love like a girl? Unconditionally, unapologetically, unafraid? Do you hide parts of yourself in every kiss and caress? Do you enter dominion and submission all at once? Do you wrap your body around love like how love wraps itself around you? Do you sing like a girl, roaring at the top of your lungs, each syllable enunciated with raw passion? Can you feel it in your chest? Do your feet dance with the tempo and your entire body submit to lyric? Are you plagued with dance? Do you laugh like a girl? Does your belly bloat with chuckles while your hands dance in sequence? Have you hid your ugly, your raw? Have you replaced your organic with modified genetics and still mean every giggle and gaggle as though it were untouched? Do you age like a girl? Has the world passed you as quickly as it took you to become an adult? force you to woman in a world that doesn't want you? Are you forgotten by the time you can pronounce your own name, but still allow it to ring in their ears? You are irreplaceable. You are more than the dust of a trophy. Womanhood is not flesh and blood, but the strength polished from weakness. How the heart beats like a drum underwater. How lungs squelch with combat. Womanhood is a duel to the death. It is a dance between friend and foe in front of a mirror that often forgets to reflect its own bravery. Warrior women. Women in Ireland have never had it better. Or so they say. See, our great nation was built on courage and resilience, modelled after the builders and the fixers, the kind of women who fought with home-cooked meals and needle and thread, the kind that lined the streets so that they could fight with the voting ballot, the ones who refused to accept that their story stops here. You see, women like this do not exist in fairy tales. Those astrologer women, constellations stitched into the seam of their skirt, dark matter sewn to the hems of reason, the clicks of their heels, the trotting of their boots, entire galaxies born without season. Ooh. You see, these are the women who fight with bent and curve, will bubble and burst in glitter and splat. The skies are painted in honor of their beauty, and the darkest parts of them are often the most alluring. Women like this are known as wise women, medicine women, life crafted from herbs and spices, with crack of tongue and spark of wit. They brew enchantments without even needing to open their mouths. Those are the women you fear, those educated women. Women who are known as washroom warriors, whose compliments slur like spilled vodka, regret washed down with spiced rum, tabletop teas, liquor-laced lips, the women who fight with their right to party, the women who ad-lib anthems like absolute animals, the women who sister foreign sororities, but will still slide you tissue from the neighbouring cubicle. They are lipstick warriors, armed and bred for battle, matriarchy crowned with bend and snap. They are the women who spread legs at will to interview suitors. The first test is the ability to satiate, discarding those who fail at crumpled tissues, the women who worship God at the feet of their own bodies, a temple built on consent and self-employment, a harmony of soft moans and squeals like a siren's song, a haunting design by deity. They own every hair and stretch mark the eye can see and flaunt them tenaciously, because this is what beauty looks like. These are the quiet women, the loud women, the women who are all tongue-tied and mute with thought, the ones who stumble over syllables and soliloquies, excitement spilling their voices, the women who give all of themselves, the women who give none of themselves. They are not defined by what was or what should be. Women like this are protest and movement and march and repeal, justice engraved in their skin. The women lined up outside with picket and post, demanding for their voices to not be heard, but listened to. To be a woman in Ireland is to be a fighter, a warrior, a hero. It is to belong to a sisterhood of unimaginable potential. Women like this do not need to exist in fairy tales. They are the magic of a beating heart.
God's sake.
Try something new.
What is that? I'm trying it now.
Come try something new. Get stuck like glue. Come see someone new. no